In the year 1123, in the almost forgotten kingdom of a modest realm nestled between two uneventful rivers, the Ploodle and the Dribbletime, moved at the pace of a dozing sheep. It was a land unbothered by war, untouched by adventure, and governed by the most diligent scribes of absolutely nothing exciting. Every fortnight the Council of Cobblestones met. Their agenda never changed. Lazier Salto M arrival and complaints about drafty castle windows 10:15 a.m. Discussion of hay storage logistics 11:30 a.m. Break for stale bread and unsalted broth. 12 o'clock p.m. continued debate about the proper angle at which to stack firewood. The grand hall where they convened was known as the Room of Slight Dampness, because the ceiling occasionally dripped, but never enough to be classified as a leak. Chaired by Lord Peddlewamp, a man whose legacy consisted of a particularly rigid posture and a fondness for brown robes, the council reviewed parchment records dating back 83 years, none of which had ever needed updating. The record titled Inventory of Goose Quills and Their Various Softness Levels was read aloud every meeting, causing half the council to fall asleep before midday. Following the council's last meeting, tensions were unusually high. The cause, a minor debate had emerged over the texture of the new parchment used to document Candlewick Inventory Volume 4. Lord Piddlewump insisted the parchment was slightly too grainy, whereas Scribe Featherstone argued it was delightfully coarse. This disagreement launched a special subcommittee, the Parchment Feelings Task Force. Their mission: compare parchment from various sheep-hide processors. Progress was glacial. Meanwhile, Lady Quibbleton led a field study to determine whether local sheep were producing wool that was too fluffy, which might, according to council logic, affect parchment quality. The study lasted 11 moons and concluded that the sheep were mostly average. During this time, the kingdom faced its most dramatic event in decades. Sir Wobbledich's goose escaped its pen and wandered into the scriptorium. Chaos unfolded as it pecked at Hafferton records of broom handle sizes and preferred lengths. Featherstone fainted from the shock. The goose was later knighted for its bravery in confronting bureaucracy. Outside the council, daily life in Eidershire was slow and dignified. The Bakers' Guild debated whether 6 loaves constituted a batch or a minute. The town crier announced the weather forecast 4 days late. On purpose, to avoid surprises, a ceremonial rock polishing tradition required participants to hum one note for 27 minutes before polishing began. Throughout all this, nothing of note happened, but everyone agreed that it was the calmest year on record since the mild rain of 1097. One grey morning, as the fog stretched lazily across the cobblestone paths of a parchment arrived from the neighboring realm of It was delivered by their official messenger, a turtle named Speedrick. The letter's arrival caused a stir that echoed through Eidershire for an entire week. Sir Wobbledick clapped once. Lady Quibbleton fainted again, though this time from anticipation. The council postponed its regular discussion on moss growth patterns on northern walls to assess the situation. Lord Piddlewump cleared his throat, adjusted his brow furrow with ceremonial precision, and read the contents aloud. Dearest Eidershire, greetings and breezes. We write with an inquiry. Would your realm be interested in hosting the Mildmore annual Beige Festival? Festivities include competitive rock watching, unseasoned porridge tastings, the parade of blank banners. Let us know slowly. Yours ambiguously, Mildmore. The council erupted into calm. A vote was scheduled. The decision would require a 10-month deliberation period and input from the Ministry of Acceptable Excitement, the Guild of Wandering Thoughts, the Royal Bureau of Waiting. Meanwhile, several scrolls were issued discussing how beige might impact Eldishire's aesthetic neutrality. One scroll suggested subtle beige might conflict with the existing grey-brown themes in village signage. Another asked whether banner flapping counted as too lively. Outside, the weather remained mildly gusty. Inside, scribes began drafting response. Draft with record-breaking. It was proposed that Eidershire hosts a practice version of the Beige Festival, but only after a ceremonial nap. After the letter from Mildmore proposed the parade of blank banners, Eidershire found itself in a whirlwind of intellectual fog. The Council of Cobblestones formed a new committee, the Subcommission for Symbolic Absence in Decorative Fabrics. Scholars were summoned from the far corners of the kingdom, mostly just the sleepy village of to debate the meaning of blankness. Philosopher Dulwyn, the contemplative pot, is not a banner's emptiness, a statement of everything and nothing simultaneously. His treatise, On the Voidness of Cloth, ran 847 pages and included 7 chapters on the symbolic importance of thread count, a diagram comparing invisibility to beige, a footnote about the emotional toll of looking at nothing. Lady Quibbleton hosted a roundtable featuring a goat trained to nod solemnly, an owl who had once stared at a napkin for 2 hours, the ceremonial pot of lukewarm tea. Meanwhile, local artists began designing prototype blank banners. One was slightly off-white, one had a wrinkle shaped vaguely like despair, another was just a piece of curtain. The townsfolk, though puzzled, remained supportive. Daily town activities included walking slowly past the banners and whispering, hosting banner viewing parties, where no one looked directly at the cloth, creating songs in which silence replaced every chorus. This collective meditation led to Eildishire's first cultural renaissance, or rather, gentle reawakening since the very calm bell ringing of 1062. The council scheduled a special vote. Should banners be waved or simply laid flat on moss? The debate was impassioned yet slow. One member took 7 minutes to say "I agree," and so Eildishire drifted deeper into thoughtful stillness. As banners fluttered lazily in the wind, the kingdom wondered, and for many hours, if emptiness was the purest form of history. In Eildishire, subtlety was cherished. Quiet nods, minimal gestures, and long pauses were cultural treasures. So it was no surprise when the idea for a grand ceremony to honor the slowest wink ever recorded emerged. The wink in question occurred during a dry afternoon at the Teacup observation post. A local villager named Marnafo Blenny had gently attempted eye contact with a pigeon. In doing so, his right eyelid began to descend, and continued descending for nearly 4 minutes. The pigeon flew away halfway through. This miraculous moment was captured in the annals of subtle motion. Experts verified the wink's duration using a sundial. 3 witnesses who all sort of noticed it, a loaf of bread used as a time anchor. Preparations for the ceremony began modestly. The Eidershire Ceremonial Task Force developed a schedule, ceremony agenda, arrival, guests seated quietly, no greetings longer than home wink recreation. Performed by accompanied by lute music and lento allegro, extramuted toast, lukewarm herbal infusion, sipped in silence, reflection period. 28 minutes of shared stillness. Closing gesture. A collective nod so slow it resembled a light breeze through tall grass. Artisans crafted a commemorative statue of an eyelid in mid-motion. It was made of soft clay, and visitors were encouraged to gently not look at it. Lady Quibbleton wept with joy 3 tears in 20 minutes. Local children were taught the value of slow winking in school, leading to an increase in long eye contact interactions and general awkwardness. The day ended peacefully, with scribes documenting every moment in the record titled Winkitude, a celebration of the softest blinks. It was declared the most ceremonious day since the Royal Whisper Exchange of 1085. It began with a quiet murmur in the Council of Cobblestones, prompted by a stray remark from Lady Quibbleton. That single sentence sent ripples through the realm. What was the true definition of sitting? Where did lounging begin? And could one sit lounge without consequence? Lord Piddlewump declared the matter urgent. He summoned the Royal Committee of Postural Clarification and issued official scrolls to convene Eildishire's finest minds. Scribe Featherstone, known for once sitting so still, he was mistaken for upholstery sawop, who lounged in a haystack for 2 winters without forming an opinion. Furniture maker Squelby Trot, inventor of the cherished cushion platform of ambiguity. The inquiry was immense. The deliberation topics included back-angle degrees and their emotional implications, where the feet position defines intent, the psychological difference between settling in and slumping slightly. Field research was conducted in the Eidershire Hall of Comfort. Participants trialed benches, cushions, rocks, and one unusually accommodating sheep. Their experiences were documented on scrolls titled Butt Placement Log. Volume 17. Meanwhile, a pamphlet swept through the town titled Sitters versus Loungers, Can We Coexist?, causing polite philosophical protests in the square, where locals quietly reclined in solidarity. Lady Quibbleton moderated a round-table discussion featuring a stool, a chaise longue, a confused pillow. The final session of debate lasted 11 days, punctuated only by tea breaks and meaningful sighs. Eventually, consensus was reached. Sitting is intentional vertical comfort. Lounging is accidental horizontal curiosity. This ruling was written into the scroll of moderate definitions and stored in the vault of mild agreements, besides socks, clothing, or mood. The resolution was celebrated with a seating parade. No one stood. Everyone found a resting surface and gently considered their position. At precisely some time during the 14th month of the year of perpetual drizzle, the villagers of Eidershire noticed an unfamiliar pebble resting beside the village. Well, it was small, slightly oblong, and had the faintest whisper of a greyish hue, not unlike every other pebble in Eidershire, except this one was new. Lady Quibbleton spotted it first and gasped quietly. "This pebble, it wasn't here before lunch," she murmured, nearly emoting. The Council of Cobblestones was summoned for emergency review. A 5-day silence preceded any spoken word, out of respect for the pebble's mysterious origin. Eventually Sir Wobbledish addressed the assembly with remarkable composure. "Let us neither move nor touch it. We must contemplate its purpose." Thus began the royal inquiry of stone migration. Investigative measures. The village's lead geologist Grantham, the unassuming, studied local soil impressions and concluded it may have arrived from Mildmore or possibly the nearby field. A scroll titled Pebble Provenance and Probable Wandering was initiated, featuring detailed diagrams of pebbles doing absolutely nothing. Villagers were encouraged to submit theories, including carried by wind, though there was none transported by a sleepy bird with average carrying capacity, sprung from the earth in a brief moment of geological motivation. The pebble itself was granted honorary citizenship. It was named Roland of Quiet Arrival. Celebrations were held, the Staring at Roland Hour, where villagers gathered and admired it without commentary, the reenactment of discovery, during which Lady Quibbleton slowly reapproached the well with heightened blink frequency, a lullaby sung to Roland involving only vowel sounds and sighs eventually. Roland was placed in a velvet-lined box atop the Eidershire archives, next to the fork that pointed to far left. Visitors now coo on at a time to not disturb it. It happened mid-morning, under a sky best described as tentatively cloudy. A breeze, classified as suggestion-level wind, rolled softly through Eildashire's eastern orchard and nudged a single leaf off its perch. The leaf's descent was observed by 3 citizens: old Marable, who said, "Oh," Squire Tittle, who blinked unusually quickly, Sir Wobbleditch, who began composing a poem titled "A Leaf Drifteth." Perhaps the event prompted a spontaneous meeting of the Council of Moderate Movements. Lady Quibbleton opened the floor with a contemplative sigh. Did the leaf jump, or was it Lord Grantham the Unassuming, now recognized as Eildashire's foremost breeze theorist, presented his latest scroll on the ethics of encouraged falling? Key findings. The breeze reached a velocity capable of stirring curtains but not startling livestock. The leaf in question was identified as belonging to the mostly indifferent elm. Debate ensued over whether leaves should be permitted to move of their own accord or require royal approval. A proposal was introduced to assign wind watchers, who would monitor the air and politely ask it to slow down if needed. Another group suggested creating leaf licenses, issued a foliage that agreed not to flutter with excessive personality. In response, several trees entered into quiet protest by remaining entirely motionless for 3 days. The fallen leaf, affectionately named Whispling, was preserved under a pane of glass near Roland the Pebble. Visitors described their experience with terms like subtle, whisper gisanti, emotionally muted. Poetry bloomed across town. It drifted not with urgency, nor purpose, nor flair, but it arrived, and we were briefly aware. The wind was later knighted. It began with a fleeting observation in the hall of contemplative repetition, when Scribe Featherstone remarked during the second hour of scroll dusting, "Have you noticed? Everyone yawns differently, and quite often, without a schedule." This bold observation prompted swift action. The Ministry of Rhythmic Respiration was convened to design a national schedule for yawning, to bring order to this otherwise spontaneous act. The proposed yawning timetable: dawn yawn, between 6:22 to 6:41 a.m. No smiling permitted mid-morning pre-lunch yawn, exactly 11:03 a.m. Suggested duration for 0.5 seconds post-lunch digestive yawn. Flexible start based on bread heaviness. Evening communal yawn, conducted in town square under the banner of breath debates around. Should yawns be audible or strictly visual? Is a stifled yawn a form of rebellion? Must one maintain eye contact while yawning in public? Lady Quibbleton organized the Symposium of Synchronized Sighing, where scholars from Slumbro demonstrated coordinated yawns followed by low humming. The event lasted 3 days and concluded with a spirited disagreement about whether sigh should be taxed. Artisans created the official yawn gong, a ceremonial device struck gently to signal yawn periods. Initial tests showed strong results. Villagers began yawning at regular intervals, often before and after listening to the gong. A scroll titled Yawncraft, The Gentle Art of Collective Breathlessness was published, featuring diagrams on mouth shape etiquette, exercises, and relaxed exhaling. Case studies of yawning animals, including a lethargic badger named Tremble. The system transformed Eildashire life. Shopkeepers paused for synchronized sigh breaks. Messages were delivered with built-in pauses for yawns. Public announcements were limited to 75 words to prevent accidental alertness. The program was declared the Kingdom's third greatest success after bread consistency, standardization, and the Night of 1,000 Quiet Thoughts. Each midsummer, Eildashire hosted its most quietly anticipated event, the Festival of None, designed to honor objects that were best appreciated peripherally. This celebration was rooted in tradition dating back to the great avoidance of eye contact in 10th century. Rules of the festival were elegantly simple. No direct gazes permitted. Appreciation expressed solely through hums, sighs, and meaningful blinks. Mirrors banned due to accidental sight. The Council of Glancing prepared the grounds in the field of discreet wonder. Decor included visible art installations, banners printed in faint ink on equally faint fabric, sculptures draped with modest linens embroidered with the phrase, "Best left vaguely noticed." Lady Quibbleton led opening ceremonies by looking 12 degrees to the left of the ceremonial rock and gently commenting, "It is almost observed." Villagers wandered past installations. A puddle shaped like a duck, a chair placed beneath a tree, rumored to have seated someone once, a shadow labeled possibly cast by something worth mentioning. Sir Wobbleditch hosted a workshop titled The Art of Seeing Without Perceiving, featuring exercises in focusing on things one wasn't meant to understand. Lectures delivered in soft tones while facing away from the audience. Participatory session where guests closed their eyes and tried to imagine the color beige. At sundown, the veiled parade commenced, Figures in cloaks moved slowly while holding translucent objects no one identified. The crowd applauded by tapping one fingernail lightly against their foreheads. By nightfall, scrolls were drafted detailing the festivities in imprecise language. One account read, "It may have been lovely, or perhaps merely gentle. We are unsure, but satisfied." The festival was declared a moderate triumph. No staring occurred. One villager reported accidental acknowledgement, but was promptly forgiven. Tea in Eidershire had always been served lukewarm, not out of haste or neglect, but because a consistent temperature of slightly warm, never hot, was considered ideal for long, undistracted contemplation. Yet, discrepancies emerged. One afternoon, at the Teacup Consensus Pavilion, Lady Quibbleton noted her brew cooled 3 minutes faster than Sir Wobbledich's. Thus began the royal initiative to standardize tea cooling rates. Across the realm, the Committee for Regulated Steeping and Ambient Repose was tasked with solving the issue. Grantham the Unassuming offered a theory involving mug density and emotional proximity to windows. He was asked to simplify. Experiments included positioning teacups beneath different shades of moss, wrapping mugs in ethically sourced cheap wool, singing lullabies to tea, testing whether gentle vocal vibrations slowed steam escape. Scrolls were drawn on the thermal journey of herbal infusions through time, the steep sleep psychological impact of drowsy brews. Artisans designed the uniform Coolman sleeve, a cloth band fitted around each mug, embroidered with the words, "Cool, but never cold, warm, yet not bold." Tea ceremonies were adjusted. Guests must hum softly for the first 90 seconds. Post-pour lids were permitted, but only made from lightly petrified bread. Ambient silence was ensured by the deployment of the Shushers Guild, who sat nearby and nodded at anyone considering loud sipping. Eventually, harmony was achieved. The ideal cooling rates, 0.8 degrees per minute, was ratified during the Great Stir of Accord. A commemorative spoon was fashioned in honor of the event, never used, only admired, and as steam gently spiraled skyward, Eidershire rested, knowing its tea was never too eager to chill, nor too sluggish to soothe. Hung had long been the unofficial backbone of Eidershire communication. It expressed doubt, approval, mild surprise, and even disagreement, all without the burden of specificity. But its popularity raised troubling philosophical concerns. Was hum being overused? Could too many hums lead to misunderstanding? Was double humming a sign of emotional recklessness? These questions gave rise to the Council of Articulated Ambiguity, chaired by Lady Quibbleton and featuring So, who once hummed E for 11 seconds and inspired a brief movement, scribe Featherstone, who documented every known variant including HMM, and the rare hum da da. An official scroll titled On the Usage, Length, and Implication of Whom in Daily Discourse was drafted. Key findings included categorized HMM's variant, meaning suggested use, hum, mild acknowledgement, council meetings, watching moss grow, inquisitive interests, rare bird sightings, misplaced spoons, sensory delight or confusion, tea sipping, wool handling. Extended pondering, furniture debates, banner philosophy, timing matters, a hum, under 1.5 seconds, polite filler between 2 to 3 seconds. Suggestive reflection, beyond 4 seconds, warning of possible overthinking. Laws were gently proposed. Only 3 H per hour unless observing moss patterns. No hum allowed during the reading of the goose feather inventory scroll. Yawning HMM is to be registered separately under the Sleepy Noise Act. Training programs were established. The Academy of Measured Murmuring, workshops on balanced breath before sound, public service scrolls explaining emergency protocols in case of hum spirals. One villager, Blenwood Nib, committed the first documented triplum in a council session. He was forgiven and given a small pebble engraved with the phrase, "We paused for you." Since implementation, verbal clarity rose 0.03%, and interpersonal confusion dropped slightly faster than tea cooled on breezy afternoons. For centuries, Eidershire had used a calendar comprised of 13 months, Mildred, Slumberfall, August, and so on. But during a council audit titled Timekeeping and Its Occasional Inconveniences, Lord Piddlewump posed a daring question. Must we label time at all? Can't we simply feel it passing? The idea was shocking. Lady Quibbleton gasped twice. The Ministry of Minutes called for calm. Featherstone fainted onto a sundial. Thus began the grand initiative to remove months entirely. New timekeeping proposal. Days would be counted gently, with no grouping. Events scheduled based on natural cues, moss dampness, goose migration patterns, and the weight of fog. Holidays marked by feelings rather than dates. A parchment titled Chronofree Existence and the notion of when was circulated. Its highlights included suggestions for mood weeks, organized by collective emotional tone, guidelines for approximate afternoons, a ritual to acknowledge a moment, without placing it anywhere specific in history. Villages tested the new model. Birthdays replaced by arrival acknowledgement ceremonies, quiet nods to the existence of those present. Market days scheduled whenever several turnips were seen together. Schooling replaced by the season of remembering things slowly. The council declared the measure a conditional success, pending further disorientation studies. Eventually, time became a shared experience not tracked, but observed. Scrolls began with phrases like, "Written during the season of misty thoughts." Even Sir Wobbleditch's memoir adopted the format. "I lived possibly often. I recall sitting." Thus, Eidershire entered its timeliest era. No deadlines, no rush, just gently unfolding afternoons and events greeted with a soft. The spark for Eidershire's most meticulously relaxed initiative ignited one foggy morning when Lady Quibbleton noticed a snail halfway up the library's outer wall. She stared for 30 minutes, during which the snail advanced approximately 1 meter, a local unit of motion equivalent to the emotional weight of an unsure shrug. This marvel prompted action. The Royal Society for Observing the Imperceptibly Gradual proposed an official national programs, its goal, to catalogue and gently admire creatures who demonstrated exceptional commitment to slowness. Sir Wobbleditch declared, "In a realm where haste is frowned upon, let the snail be crowned ambassador of pace." Snail watch procedures. Volunteers assigned to snail patrols, equipped with magnifying glasses and hours of free time. Standardized documentation including scrolls like shell patterns, possibly meaningful shapes and trail residue as emotional expression. A daily ritual called the long look, where snails were observed silently, occasionally complimented via whisper. A contest was held to select the most majestic snail. Criteria included least movement across a 3-day span, expressive eye stalk positioning, commitment to not doing much, but looking like it might. The winner, Glorabelle the utterly unmoved, was honored with a gentle parade featuring slow drum percussion, floats made of damp lettuce, a banner that read, "She stayed, we stayed with her." Snail watch quickly expanded. Schools taught snail philosophy, including the classic essay, "Are We Not All Softshell?" Citizens began measuring time by snail migration rather than sundials. A new currency was proposed, pegged to the average number of visible snails per foggy afternoon. Eventually, snails became each home housed an observation station, a quiet nook with a moss-lined pedestal and complimentary puddle for visiting guests. Grantham, the unassuming, designed the royal snail perch, a raised cushion that no one, least of all the snails, was asked to climb. It was said that Eidershire's official motto shifted ever so slightly: "Let all who crawl do so proudly, and those who hurry reconsider." Long had the citizens of Eidershire enjoyed naps, morning naps, post-tea naps, speculative pre-lunch dozing, but disorder loomed. Lady Quibbleton raised a concern during one council session. "If naps vary too wildly, how can we ensure national coziness?" Sir Wobbleditch agreed, barely awake. Thus was born the Royal Nap Registry, overseen by the newly formed Department of Mild Recline. Its duties included nap protocols, official nap windows defined, WIMNAP 10 o'clock to 10:20 a.m. mid-drowse, 2 o'clock to 2:27 p.m. the slow blink. Anytime fog touches Mars, citizens invited to register preferred nap styles: curled ponder, flatling dream, posture of indecision. To ensure quality, Eidershire launched the Blanket Standardization Program. A team of wool evaluators dubbed the Fleece Guild inspected thread, softness, nap, clingability, emotional support. Potential blanket grading was devised. Grade texture, ideal nap style, a dreamy fold, horizontal float, a gentle crumple, meditative curl, be suggestively warm, experimental lounge. A national blanket registry was maintained. Each household received one certified nap sheet and a scroll titled A Guide to Profound Wrapping. Celebrations unfolded across the realm. The Festival of Drowsing Drapes, where people reclined artistically, a parade where citizens displayed their blankets without enthusiasm. Sir Wobbleditch hosted a nap duel. To villagers napped simultaneously, the deepest sleeper won soon. Naps became cultural ceremonies. The council approved the motto, "It is horizontal strategy." Records grew thick with nap-based achievements. Longest scheduled silence while near linen. Most emotionally supportive pillow arrangement. Best dream about something that didn't really matter. It had been many seasons, possibly dozens, since the letter from Mildmore arrived, inviting Eidershire to host the Beige Festival. The parchment had rested in the hall of deferred correspondence, quietly aging beside scrolls marked "maybe later" and "too early to decide." Finally, the Council of Cobblestones agreed. The time had possibly come. Lady Quibbleton composed the response by using the official quill of thoughtful delay. Every word was weighed, then re-weighed, then quietly reconsidered before being committed to parchment. Here is an excerpt. To Mildmore, greetings and gradients. We thank you belatedly but with appropriate ambiguity for your generous invitation. After extensive contemplation and a handful of very slow blinks, we are prepared to affirm our participation in the Beige Festival conditionally. Our conditions include: events must remain strictly non-exciting, all banners to remain blank, guest yarns not to exceed polite frequency. We await your reply with leisurely anticipation. May the wind never surprise you. Yours in gentle hesitation, Delivery post a challenge. Speedrick the Turtle, now retired, was unavailable. A new career Snellborn the Reluctant was nominated. With a scroll affixed securely to his shell, Snellborn departed to Mildmoor, under the motto eventually. Closing notes. Citizens gathered in a square of distant resolutions to not watch Snellborn leave. The post-event yarn lasted 8 minutes. Roland the Pebble was informed of the decision, though it remained unmoved. And so, the kingdom continued, as it always had, with calm purpose, unhurried intention, and a devotion to doing things. Eventually, Eidershire endured not through conquest or drama, but through quiet afternoons, mutual shrugs, and the courage to pause.